as well as broadcast through the city's homepage at lacity.org over the internet and available on your telephone at 213-621-CITY. Mr. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretsky, Corrigan, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosnell, Smith, Wesson, Zion, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Alarcon moves and Mr. Zion seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of
Mandatory
business.
resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Koretz moves and Mr. Krikorian seconds. Without objection, if we can run through the agenda, please.
On the regular agenda, items 1 through 10 are items for which public hearings have been held. Item 1 is a commission appointment. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold the commissioner on the desk. Next items.
That does leave items 2 through 10.
Colleagues, any items 2 through 10 wishing to be called special? 7 and 8 for Mr. Alarcon. Are there specials? Yes, Mr. Koretz?
Can I just ask that number 9 go forthwith?
Upon passage, absolutely. Any other any other specials? If not, let's take up the balance. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
Mr. President, I'm sorry, on item
11
2...
ayes.
Sorry? Say again, Mr. Clerk?
On item 2, the committee report has not yet been circulated.
All right, let's reconsider number 2 then. Please open the roll in reconsideration of 2. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And we'll call that special pending the committee report. Next items, please.
Items 11 through 18 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
There's no objection. We'll consider those. We have a card on number 16, but we'll close the other public hearings. Any specials, Mr. Labange? 12 for Mr. Labange. Other specials, colleagues? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open the roll on the balance, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Sorry, Mr. Rosenthal?
Talk about item 4.
Okay, we'll reconsider that in a moment. Let's go ahead actually and reconsider that now. Please open the roll on reconsideration of 4. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right, and we'll call that special for Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That will take us to our presentations. I'd like to recognize a very special guest we have for our first presentation, and I'd like to recognize our council member from the 2nd Council District, Paul Krikorian, to begin our first presentation. And we have a head of state that we are very pleased to welcome here today. Mr. Krikorian.
Okay.
Mr. President, if you'll please join Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I'm very honored and humbled to be able to make this very special and indeed historic introduction to you this morning. Since the 2nd century BC, Armenian people have occupied the Artsakh region of the Caucasus. and have had a proud and long history and culture in that region. Unfortunately, under the rule of the Soviet Union, the people of Artsakh were placed under the rule of the Azerbaijani Soviet Socialist Republic. Throughout the 20th century, the people of Artsakh stood up and demanded self-determination. In the 1980s, that demand turned into a liberation movement, which was one of the first tests, really, of glasnost and perestroika, and was one of the pebbles in the pond whose ripples went far beyond that region and helped to put into place the first initial steps towards the breakup of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. We have with us today in our chambers a true champion of freedom and justice and liberty for all, who has been an inspiration for Armenians throughout the world, but truly for everyone who stands for independence and freedom. We have with us a warrior who fought for the freedom and independence of his homeland and his countrymen. We have a experienced and strong leader who has guided his small country from the brink of destruction to the plateaus of economic vitality and prosperity. It's truly my great honor and privilege to stand here before you and to welcome to Los Angeles His Excellency Bako Sahakian, the President of the Republic of Artsakh. His Excellency has traveled many thousands of miles from his homeland to participate in the annual Armenia Fund Telethon, whose mission is to raise funds and awareness for the people of the Republic of Artsakh. But in many ways, this is also home for him, because as you all know, Los Angeles is home for the largest population of Armenians anywhere in the world outside of Armenia, and so this is a place that President Sahakian feels very at home and very comfortable. I have to tell you briefly, before I ask him to speak, what a remarkable leader he has been for this small and struggling republic. After the declaration of Artsakh's independence in 1991, a brutal and bloody war ensued in which the Azeri government attempted to stamp out this liberation movement. And as a result of that war, 35,000 people were killed. In the aftermath of that war, after the 1994 ceasefire, many economists calculated that as much as 80% of Artsakh's economy had been destroyed. But since taking office as the fourth president of the Republic, His Excellency has led an economic rebirth for Artsakh. Under his leadership, the textile industry has rapidly expanded and brought significant economic growth. Foreign investments, especially in the diamond and jewelry industry, electronic manufacturing and research, and food processing and many other industries have dramatically increased under his leadership. And that economic growth has created a sense of normalcy and stability in Artsakh that his people have long sought and sorely needed, and that had been missing for nearly a generation. Today, the Republic of Artsakh continues to struggle with threats of war from its neighbor Azerbaijan, the constant rattling of sabers, threats of destruction of this strong and vibrant and free nation that's on the cusp of achieving what for too long has only been a dream for the people of Artsakh: a truly free, independent, democratic, and sovereign republic for the Armenian people of Artsakh. So without any further ado, please let me introduce and ask you to join me in welcoming His Excellency Bako Sahakian, the President of the Republic of Artsakh. Mr. President.
Հարգելի բարեկամներ, նախ եւ առաջ թույլ տվեք շնորհակալություն հայտնել այս ընդունելությունը կազմակերպելու համար։
Dear friends, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here.
Ուզում եմ Արցախի ժողովրդի շնորհակալություն եւ երախտագիտություն հայտնել Լոս Անջելեսի քաղաքապետարանի խորհրդի անդամներին, խորհրդի նախագահին այս հոգատար վերաբերմունքը ցուցաբերելու համար։
I would like to thank the City Council of Los Angeles on behalf of the people of Artsakh for having such an opportunity and creating this warm atmosphere.
Իմ եւ իմ գործընկերների համար պատիվ է լինել այսօր այստեղ Լոս Անջելեսի քաղաքապետարանում եւ հանդիպում ունենալ քաղաքային խորհրդի անդամների հետ։
For me and for my colleagues, it's a great honor to be here and to meet with the members of Los Angeles City Council.
Պարոն Պոլ Գրիգորյանը հակիրճ ներկայացրեց Արցախի պատմությունը, նրա տնտեսության վիճակը եւ ընդհանրապես հայերի վերաբերմունքը Արցախի նկատմամբ, բայց ես ուզում եմ այս պայմանությամբ կանգ առնել Միացյալ Նահանգների վերաբերմունքի մասին մի քանի խոսք ասելու։
Mr. Paul Gregorian has already introduced briefly history of Artsakh, state of economy, and some other important data. But I would like to talk about the role the United States plays in our region and in our history.
Մենք մեր երկրում արդեն ապրում ենք 4,500 տարի։
We live in our country for more than 4,500 years.
Եվ այս պատմական ժամանակաշրջաններում եղել են տարբեր կարգեր, տարբեր իշխանություններ, բայց այնուամենայնիվ մեզ հաջողվել է այս հազարամյակների ընթացքում առաջնորդվել ազատատենչության ոգով եւ մենք միշտ նախընտրել եւ այսօր էլ նախընտրում ենք ազատությունը եւ ժողովրդավարությունը։
During this long period, we have witnessed different changes in political structure and in cultural relations, etc. But one thing remained constant. It's our dedication to freedom and liberty. These two principles are guiding principles for our nation.
Եվ այդ առումով մեր ժողովուրդը շատ նման է Միացյալ Նահանգների ժողովրդին, որովհետև մեր ժողովուրդները ընտրել են հենց այդ ուղին եւ ազատատենչությամբ եւ ազատասիրությամբ են առաջնորդվում։
And in this respect, there are many similarities between our people and the people of United States, because both our nations have embarked on the way of liberty and freedom for many years.
Ուզում եմ շնորհակալություն հայտնել Լոս Անջելեսի քաղաքային խորհրդին եւ քաղաքապետարանի կազմին այն վերաբերմունքի համար, որը նրանք ցուցաբերում են մեր հայրենակիցների նկատմամբ, ովքեր ճակատագրի բերումով հայտնվել են Միացյալ Նահանգներում եւ հատկապես Լոս Անջելես քաղաքում։
I would like to thank the authorities of Los Angeles for a very warm welcome and attitudes towards our compatriots, towards our Armenians who by virtue of destiny have found safe haven in California.
Նրանք այսօր ներգրաված են նահանգի եւ քաղաքի գրեթե բոլոր կյանքի ուղղություններում, արվեստի, մշակույթի ոլորտներում, տնտեսության տարբեր ճյուղերում։
They play a very active role in different fields of life in the state and in the city, in cultural sphere, in economy, in other branches.
Եվ ապրում են լիարժեք կյանքով։
And they live full life here.
Ճակատագրի բերումով մենք 20-րդ դարի վերջին հայտնվել ենք մի այնպիսի վիճակում, երբ մեր հակառակորդը պարտադրել էր մեզ պատերազմական գործողություններ։
At the end of 20th century, we found ourselves in a situation when our enemy actually brought war on us.
Եվ այդ պատերազմական գործողությունների ընթացքում գրեթե մեր երկիրը ամբողջությամբ ավերվել է։
And our state was almost completely devastated as a result of the war.
Եվ մենք այսօր ստիպված ենք իրականացնելով բազմաթիվ աշխատանքներ եւ այդ աշխատանքները ուղղված են առաջին հերթին վերականգնելու այդ պատերազմից ստացած այդ խորը վերքերը։
And right now all our activities are directed to cure these wounds and to recover our state from this situation.
Եվ այդ վերականգնման գործերում եւ ընդհանրապես մեր երկրի զարգացման ճանապարհին մեծ նշանակություն, մեծ մասնակցություն ունի հայկական սփյուռք։
And in this process, the Armenian diaspora plays a very significant role.
Այդ սփյուռքի մի մեծ զանգվածը հենց գտնվում է այստեղ Լոս Անջելեսի քաղաքում։
And in Los Angeles, we have a very substantial portion of our diaspora.
Եվ նրանք հնարավորություն ունեն այստեղ ոչ միայն հոգալու իրենց ազնական այսպես կարիքները, կենցաղային, սոցիալական, նաև հնարավորություն ունեն օգնելու մեզ իրենց հայրենակիցներին, ովքեր այսօր գտնվում են այդ վիճակում հայրենիքում։
And right now here they not only succeeded in having high living standards, but they also help their compatriots in historical motherland.
Մենք կարծում ենք, որ նրանց զարգացման հիմքում հենց այդ ժողովրդավարությունն է, որի հիմնադիրներից մեկը հանդիսանում է Միացյալ Նահանգները։
We think that the secret, the key to success of Armenian diaspora here is the value of democracy, and the people of United States is the beginners, are those who started and embodied these values.
Մենք ժողովրդավարությունը ընտրել ենք որպես բացառիկ արժեք մեր երկրի զարգացման համար։
For our country, democracy is also an exclusive value in general for the development of our state.
Եվ հավատարիմ ենք այդ արժեքին։
And we very much follow this value.
Հուսով ենք, որ մեր հարաբերությունների զարգացումը ձեզ հետ հնարավորություն կտա ել ավելի խորացնելու այդ արժեքները մեր կյանքում եւ սիրով հրավիրում ենք այդպիսի համագործակցություն ստեղծելու ձեզ հետ։
And we are confident that our cooperation would only contribute to further strengthening this the value of democracy, and we welcome assistance and cooperation with you.
Ես ուզում եմ մեկ անգամ եւս շնորհակալություն հայտնել ձեզ իբրև Միացյալ Նահանգների քաղաքացիների, Լոս Անջելեսի քաղաքապետարանի խորհրդին եւ սիրով հրավիրում եմ ձեզ այն երկրի, որի մասին քիչ առաջ իմ հայրենակիցը ներկայացրեց Պոլ Գրիգորյանը, եւ ես ձեզ հրավիրում եմ այդ երկիրը անմիջապես տեսնելու եւ համոզված եմ, որ այդ այցելությունը նույնպես հնարավորություն կստեղծի մեզ համար ել ավելի արդյունավետ հարաբերություններ կառուցելու։
I would like again to thank you, you the citizens of the United States, and invite you to the country which have been introduced by my compatriot, and let us together create and strengthen our friendship and our statehood.
Mr. We have some council members that would like to add their good wishes. Would that be in order right now? Okay, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, President Sahaki, and I want to say, also give my welcome to you and the people who have come with you to visit our city of Los Angeles. I just wanted to say how proud I am of our colleague, a fellow Armenian of yours, Paul Krikorian. He has served very honorably in the state legislature, and now he is here on the city council representing his community and the Armenian community very, very well. And I just wanted to say that I admire what he brings with him, which is hard work, honesty, and an intellect that has really added value to the entire city. And I just wanted to share that with you so that you understand that throughout this country, and in Los Angeles is no exception, there are many Armenian people who are contributing tremendously, not only to our economy, but to the values of this great country. So thank you for visiting us, and welcome. Thank you.
And thank you very much to Mr. Krikorian for the presentation. And sorry, one other member did press their button. Mr. Labange?
Important it is to have you, Mr. President, speak, and where everyone in Los Angeles could speak. Anyone in Los Angeles could come in and fill out a card and see our Sergeant of Arms, Mr. Johnson, and speak. And you spoke your heart to us. So again, we welcome you to the City of Angels. Thank you.
Mr. President, on behalf of the people of the City of Los Angeles, I'd like to present you with this resolution signed by every member of the Los Angeles City Council and welcome you to Los Angeles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krikorian. And we do have a second and not unrelated presentation as well from Mr. Krikorian as well, for Ambassador Evans.
Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues, for welcoming President Sahakian. In a somewhat related vein is my next presentation. As you all know, every April this Council recognizes the Armenian genocide and acknowledges the atrocities that happened to the Armenian people beginning on April 24th of 1915, and we remember that as an example of the consequences of bigotry and prejudice and the resulting inhumanities that it can produce, and the lessons that we all learn from that even today. And every April, the state of California does likewise. But unfortunately, the United States government continues to resist appropriate recognition and remembrance of the genocide of the Armenian people beginning in 1915. Well, I'm very pleased to introduce my next presentation, and that is to Ambassador John Evans, the United States Ambassador to Armenia, who is now retired, who during his service to our country and after many, many long years of extraordinary service to the State Department and to the people of the United States, during his service as the ambassador to Armenia, he became the first ambassador to have the courage to stand up to the orthodoxy of the State Department bureaucrats, and the first ambassador to acknowledge the historical truth of the Armenian genocide and to recognize it as such. And so it's a great honor and pleasure for me on behalf of not only Armenians everywhere, but on behalf of everyone in this city and beyond the boundaries of the city who care about historical truth, who care about remembering the lessons of history, who care about fighting against bigotry and its consequences. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce to you Ambassador John Evans and his wife Donna. Ambassador Evans.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be back here in Los Angeles. We always feel very much at home here, and I just want to report to you all that progress is being made on this question of recognition of the Armenian genocide. And I will cite just three small things. First of all, in the spring of 2007, the Assistant Secretary for European Affairs, Daniel Fried, in a hearing on the Hill, on Capitol Hill, characterized what happened in 1915 as ethnic cleansing. Now, ethnic cleansing, the experts know, is a euphemism for a crime against humanity, which the world knows as genocide. That's the first thing that changed. Along with it, in the State Department, the issue of the Armenian genocide is no longer a complete taboo, as it was at the time when I was ambassador in Armenia from 2004 to 2006. And the third thing I would mention to you is that this year in during her trip to Armenia, which coincided with our national holiday, July 4th, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went to the Genocide Memorial in Yerevan, placed a wreath at that memorial, and the ribbons attached to the wreath said the Secretary of State. It was characterized as a personal visit. The press was not invited to film it. However, YouTube does have the film of that. And it's clear that when the ribbons say Secretary of State, it's more than just personal. I should also just briefly mention that the statements which have been made on April 24th this year and last year by President Obama are a far cry from the statements that we had been accustomed to hearing in the past. So this is in the way of a progress report. Progress is being made. I won't get into it, but there's also progress being made in Turkish society. So the cup is becoming fuller. And I thank you all for this great honor. We appreciate it very much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Council President Garcetti, did you want to say something?
If I may, just very, very briefly as well, Ambassador and Mrs. Evans, it's a great pleasure to see you here in Los Angeles. The last time I saw Ambassador Evans was in Yerevan when we were there to create the sister city relationship that now twins the capital of Armenia to Los Angeles, the first and third largest populations of Armenians anywhere in the world. I think Moscow may arguably be second, though. Los Angeles, we've been doing pretty well to beat them out soon. And Ambassador Evans struck me then, as he does now, not just as someone who tells the truth about the past, but also as somebody who is able to confront the present. And we spoke a lot about the movie industries between our two cities. We talked about law enforcement cooperation between the United States and Armenia, and we talked about economic ties and strengthening those, all of which have been a part of what we've done since creating that sister city relationship of citizen diplomacy. And Ambassador Evans, when it was a little bit after our visit with a delegation from Los Angeles that the truth-telling that you did became an issue. The truth should never be an issue. As we know, it was the denial the first time of the genocide that lay the foundation for the Holocaust, for other genocides that we've seen in Rwanda and now in southern Sudan. And so the importance of stopping and recognizing what the first one was is hopefully stopping the future ones from ever occurring as well. So thank you for being such a warrior for justice and proving to us diplomacy is not just about subtle moves. It sometimes is about bold moves. As subtle as they may seem, they certainly send ripples throughout our history, and you have done that very well. Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize Councilmember Cardenas.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ambassador Evans, for speaking up and standing up for what's right and speaking the truth. I think it's very important for us to understand that, as the Council President said, diplomacy isn't just about negotiating. It's not just about speaking of, but what's most important is, regardless of whether it's diplomacy at the international level or diplomacy in the home or in the community or what have you, it's about just being the truth and speaking the truth. And unfortunately, there's too much of the opposite going on in too many circles. So I just wanted to stand and then thank you so much for standing up for what's right and then showing your character and being willing to stand up for it regardless of the consequences. So thank you very much. But I do want to ask you a question. Do you give classes on that? Because if you did, I think that we could fill a whole stadium of people in one class at a time that need that, and I wouldn't mind being there to learn from you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cardenas. And Ambassador Evans, I'm pleased to be able to present to you on behalf of the people of Los Angeles for your courage, for your extraordinary leadership, for your diplomacy, and for your service to America for so many years. I'm pleased to present to you this resolution signed by all members of the City Council. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Our next presentation will be from the great council member in the 3rd District, Dennis Stein.
said great council member. Thank you very much for the great councilwoman. Okay, gentlemen, I think it's Armenian Day in L.A. and Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation. Woodrow Wilson, former president of the great United States of America. Woodrow Wilson was a lifelong champion for individual freedom, labored for many years to understand the quality of a right relationship between people and their leaders as joint subjects to the rule of law, and acted by a free and self-determined people. Was a third-generation son of European working-class immigrants who was inspired by a global vision to challenge the status quo of large state empires and corporate interests in favor of minority and individual rights. Woodrow Wilson wrote extensively on the history and experience of the American people as participants in the historical development of constitutional principles recognized by lovers of freedom on a global scale. He endeavored to end violence and war as a group expression resulting from individual sources of anger and frustration. Woodrow Wilson desired to present the world with a functional political process shared by all nations for resolving conflicts between estranged parties using diplomatic and deliberative means for achieving peaceful ends. Woodrow Wilson embodied simultaneously the high ideals of academic scholarship, political leadership grounded in common morality and principles of individual integrity. Woodrow Wilson, president of Princeton College in New Jersey, was willing to leave the comforts and safety of private life in pursuit of public office as a means to serve his fellow man. On the morning of September 29, 1910, Californians awoke to the breaking news out of New York that Woodrow Wilson, only the night before, had won his first public election, effectively receiving the nomination of the Democratic Party to run for the office of governor of New Jersey. Woodrow Wilson went on 2 years later to win his first national campaign to become the 20th president of the United States of America. Woodrow Wilson, in the aftermath of World War I, won the affection of many non-Americans for his global role in advocating strongly for the self-determination and freedom of people groups traditionally ignored by ruling families and despotic empires. Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation is established as a living memorial to the life, legacy, and history and principles of President Woodrow Wilson. The vision of the Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation is to establish broad use of the philosophical, moral, and ethical principles articulated by the Wilson presidency as tools to bring about a sustainable world peace. The mission of the Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation is to establish life and legacy of President Woodrow Wilson by educating global citizens and world leaders who can champion the program of the world's peace as reflected in the historical records of Woodrow Wilson's personal values and his high ideals that animated his administration and his foreign policy. The Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation is chosen to establish its global headquarters here in the City of the Angels. Los Angeles celebrates the centennial legacy of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson's rise to global leadership, which began 100 years ago this month in the year 1910. We welcome the Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation to the City of Los Angeles. We commend its founder, who's with me today, Mr. Donald Wilson Bush, for his recognition of our city as a shining example of multi-ethnic character and high ideals for spreading fairness and democracy in a manner emulating Woodrow Wilson's dream for the world. So what we find is the Woodrow Wilson Legacy Foundation is now established, their global headquarters here in our city, and the main reason is because of what the City Council, what the city believes in, what we represent for all people. And it's my honor to bring to you Mr. Bush, who brought this to our fine city, and in the memory of President Woodrow Wilson is here to say a few words and to show the accomplishments and what this foundation will do.
Before we have that, we have a council member that would like to speak. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, thank you. I went to the Woodrow Wilson School when I was a graduate student at University of Pittsburgh, and I used to fly once a week to Princeton and go there and come back. I was a big admirer of Woodrow Wilson. I believed he was a visionary, and frankly, was ahead of his time. A lot of the things that he had said way back when, if we had only heeded them, we wouldn't be in all these conflicts all over the planet. So I'm very grateful that you have formed this foundation and you're moving forward with it. Woodrow Wilson is one of my heroes. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Honorable members of the City Council, family and friends, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Donald Wilson Bush, and I am a direct descendant of Woodrow Wilson's great-grandfather. And Woodrow Wilson once said, "We all grow great by dreams." We all dream of getting something new, finding a better life, or even building a process that will lead to a sustainable world peace. I can see in this room today that no one achieves their dreams in a vacuum. No one finds their dreams alone. And the city of Los Angeles is a shining example of what community looks like when we all work together towards that same common goal. I have a dream, and that dream is to venerate the life and legacy of Woodrow Wilson by raising up a new generation of young world leaders that will think like Woodrow Wilson thought, feel like Woodrow Wilson felt, and yes, make decisions like Woodrow Wilson made decisions. Dreams are not hard to find, and I believe if we work together, we can find them. Because as the poet said, we are the music makers, we are the dreamers of dreams, standing by lone sea breakers, walking by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers, upon whom the pale moon gleams. We are the movers and shakers of the world forever it seems. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you in our council chamber
Thank
today.
you. It is my distinct pleasure right now, along with Councilman Zine, to recognize not one people group, but many people groups in and among our communities here in the United States, represented by minority communities in the greater Los Angeles area, that are living by these same values and high principles that Woodrow Wilson embodied. I can say this, that there is no other community that venerates the life and legacy of Woodrow Wilson more than the Armenians living in Los Angeles and scattered in the diaspora throughout the world. They have brought me to your great city, and it is my pleasure right now and my privilege to introduce my colleagues and friends from this minority community who have connections to at least 15 more minority communities in your greater Los Angeles jurisdiction. It is my pleasure now to say thank you and to welcome my friends from the Armenian community with me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much and welcome. Our next presentation from Council District 6, the Honorable Council Member Tony Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And today we're celebrating Children's Day, a salute to kids. And 9 years ago, the San Fernando Coalition on Gangs was formed by former Deputy Chief of LAPD's Operation Valley Bureau, Ron Bergman, and he's retired. And the LAPD Commander, Valentino Panacea, also were involved, and Blinky Rodriguez, Executive Director of Communities and Schools. They realized that traditional law enforcement approaches alone could not reduce gang violence. Bergman, Panacea, and Rodriguez brought a diverse group of service providers, government agencies, business leaders, and concerned residents to reduce the violence in the San Fernando Valley and address the lack of coordination among community and governmental agencies. Since then, the coalition continues to meet on a monthly basis with more than 100 members working to provide resources to address gang violence in the San Fernando Valley. Today, we honor the hard work and dedication of the San Fernando Valley Coalition on Gangs, who have been working toward peace for almost 10 years and who have made a difference in keeping our communities safe from violence. In particular, we're honoring the Coalition's annual Children's Day, a Salute to Kids celebration that's taking place tomorrow, Saturday, November 20th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Woodley Park, and everyone is welcome. During the last 2 years, Children's Day has attracted more than tens of thousands of children and their families who have the opportunity to learn about various programs and available resources to keep their children productive and away from harm's way. I would also like to recognize in particular members of the San Fernando Coalition on Gangs Steering Committee who are joining us today, and some of them couldn't make it, but I'd like to recognize them. LAPD Valley Bureau Commander Jim Kanzler, LAPD Lieutenant Tom Zach, LAUSD Representative John Gamboa, Maria Sheets from the city's Department of Public Works, Zamora Flores Holguin, County Department of Children and Family Services, Sandy Kiedman from the City Attorney's Office, Blinky Rodriguez and Bobby Arias from Communities and Schools, Paul Vignettes from the County Probation Department, LAPD's John Artes, LAPD Captain Ken Crawford. Also, as you can see, the makeup of the Coalition Steering Committee reflects what a genuine and true collaborative work this is. City and county entities, CBOs, LAUSD, and law enforcement working together for peace and safety. I'd like to present a resolution on behalf of the City Council and Los Angeles commemorating the achievements of the San Fernando Valley Coalition on Gangs and proclaiming November 20th, 2010 as Children's Day, a salute to kids in the city of Los Angeles. And I'd like to give the opportunity to Commander Jim Kanzler to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Thank you for all the support, and we look forward to a big group again this year. Like the Councilman said, this is our third annual Children's Day where we get thousands and thousands of children and their parents there. We're going to have over 100 booths that will assist families and the children in groups and events that we have throughout the year, a lot of it funded by the Gang Coalition and the support of the Gang Coalition. So on behalf of Operations Valley Bureau, thank you very much, Councilman, for this honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also I'd like to give Blinky Rodriguez a few moments to say a few words.
Again, I want to thank you, Councilman Cardenas, and the entire City Council. This thing was really birthed in the heart of the community. This San Fernando Valley Coalition on Gangs has just been a tremendous instrument for us really to stem the tide of violence from grassroots all the way to corporate America. The committee has given countless hours. The work that has been done in the valley, there's truly a gelling that's been happening. And our work, particularly on the streets, has really improved vastly with the ability to have this type of communication, this type of, coming together for one cause and one purpose, and that's to save lives. Tomorrow's going to be a powerful day. I want everyone to light a candle. It's not going to rain, because this is an incredible day for children in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, Blinky Rodriguez was one of the founders of this organization and this collaborative. And also, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind ourselves as policymakers, community members throughout the city, we all want to save lives, we all want to reduce crime, we all want safer streets, and this coalition is a perfect example of what public safety truly is. Of course, we need our officers, our sworn officers who are putting their lives on the line every single day, but at the same time, we have community members, organizations, businesses, not-for-profits. Together, ladies and gentlemen, that is true public safety. That is true public safety, and it's out of respect and appreciation for each other's contributions that this organization, this coalition, has existed for so many years, and they're meeting every single month, and the meetings continue to be strong and fruitful, and the dialogue is certainly making a differons. So once again, I'd like to thank all of them.
Before you go, Councilmember Smith would like to say a few words.
Thank you very much, and I rise to congratulate Blinky and the department, obviously, but I remember a number of years ago when we were just getting this going with Ron Bergman and all the great work you were doing out there, that just prior to that, it was Blinky who actually stopped a gang war that was going on in the North San Fernando Valley. We had a shoot-on-shooting going on between a couple of gangs, and Blinky was the person who went out there because the blue suit guys can't sometimes talk to these gang members in a way that you were able to. And you stopped the gang warfare, and I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think since that day 10 years ago we've had a gang shooting warfare going on in the San Fernando Valley, and that's because of the work you and the great folks are doing out there. So thank you so much on behalf of all of us. You've been great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Smith, but also I think
you know what? Councilmember Zine also wants to say something.
Well, then I'll say it after both of you, because I'm going to compliment both of you.
Thank you. I was back taking photos of the last presentation. I just wanted to offer my congratulations. Blinky, I've known you a long time. Before you got a haircut to look like me. I knew you back then. But you've done a great job out there. You continue to work hard. Tony, you started that intervention to get kids on the right track, and we just want to make sure that we can help turn that attitude around. And Commander Chancellor, I know that the police department is very pleased with the progress that's been made, that intervention, that suppression, all the positive things that are taking place versus incarceration. And we know the incarceration has proven as effective. So you're on the right track. We support it. Those dollars are there to make the difference. I know that we're going to get some activity from the grid in the West San Fernando Valley, as we do have some issues out there. We've spoken to the folks within the administration, so I think it's a wonderful day, and the celebration and the acknowledgement of the great work you guys are doing. And Malinky, my heart and soul goes with you, because you've been a fighter for the right thing for such a long time. You haven't given up the battle. You've had your own personal tragedies. You haven't given up the battle. Stick with it. We're with you. God bless you, and continue the battle. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and members. And also, I'd like to thank Councilmember Smith and Zion for your comments. And it's extra special to hear two men who are actually putting on that uniform today. You put on those uniforms, you're out there with the badges, and you have and you're out there doing your part about public safety. So it's extra special to hear that from you, because with all due respect, 30, 40 years ago, we didn't hear those comments from men and women in blue, men and women who are out there as a critical part of public safety. So thank you so much for your participation and your comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just like that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Dogs and Cats and the LA City Council. The next presentation will be for our feline friends. Must love cats, must love dogs. Is it a dog or cat? Is it a dog or cat? Oh. Paul, where's your kitty?
I am sorry, this was actually it's done last week, so I am catless.
Would anybody like to adopt Paul?
You can adopt me, however.
He's cute. He doesn't. Let's not go there.
But if anyone's looking for a cat, they can call my office, and we can encourage them and give them the advice they need.
You what?
I'd be happy to help present this dog, which looks just like a dog I used to have years ago.
Okay, here we have a puppy. Mr. Wesson, what do we have here today?
I hope I can get Mr. Koretz adopted, and Muffin. Muffin is 3 years old. She's a terrier poodle mix. She's got wonderful energy. She's ready to go today. She's from the North Shelter, and wait, look at the camera. I mean, look at that. Look at her paw. Here, you want to play with her?
Yeah.
So, we still have our 100% adoption rate, and we don't want to break that where it relates to our dog. So this little lady is looking for a home, and you can see it, that she's about as cute as she can be and full of energy. If you're looking for a companion animal, we in the city of Los Angeles have 6 shelters with numerous dogs and cats and bunnies, and you name it, we've got it. If you have an interest in Muffin, who I can tell is a pistol, please call 888-452-7381. And if you call, and Muffin just ate if you call, don't get depressed if Muffin's adopted, because she probably will be. We have hundreds of animals that are looking for a home. And lastly, I'd like to say we do the very best that we can with our dogs and cats, but we can't keep them forever. So if you adopt Muffin, you're saving her life. So I ask you to please open your hearts. Janice, this is a good one for your mom. It's another good dog for your mother here. Please, let's give this young lady a home. In fact, Mr. Koretz, I'm going to let you walk her in the back. Anyway, thank you. Call 888-452-7381. We're going to have the people from the shelter hang around a little bit. And so if you're interested, come and see her, fall in love with her. And Mr. Koretz, maybe she wants you. Anyway, thank you. Adopt a pet.
Thank you very much. Now, Tom LaBonge, I understand you were interested in Muffin. Have you called home to see if you can bring that dog home? I guess not. No? Okay. Giving you first right of refusal. Oh, yes, Mr. Resson.
Oh, yes. You know, usually when a dog is adopted, I'll announce what person adopted the dog and from where. I'm proud to announce that Mr. Parks has decided to adopt Councilmember Paul Koretz.
I hope you're happy. I hope you two are happy. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I think we're done with presentations. Shall we go to the regular agenda?
Madam President, do you wish to take up public comment at this time?
Yes, let's hear public comment at this time. Okay, let's have public comment in the time. I'd like to call first Frank Shiftel. Yeah, out in the valley. Yeah, it's up. We're not getting audio from the valley. We're not getting audio from Van Nuys. Hold on, Van Nuys.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, here we go.
You hear me now?
We can hear you now. Go
Excellent.
ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Hahn. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you today. You have an amendment coming up next week, or a motion regarding the marijuana. You're trying to make it a little easier to get the 141 to be able to get back on that were deemed ineligible because of management changes. You know, I've had an issue with my collective. I'm only one, and I appreciate the help that I've received from various council people. My own council person isn't engaging with me on this issue, and I think it's a really simple issue. And I'm hoping that maybe this amendment coming up, that we can add something to the language of that would allow my one collective that has been compliant since day one. We've followed every single rule, but they're trying to remove us for a technical deficiency that they admit is their error. It was a technical error in terms of where we filed our documents. I filed my papers in 07 in October, a month well before the deadline, in Van Nuys over here. And everything was fine, and then they determined that Van Nuys had misdirected my paperwork, so LA didn't get it in time, but then they acknowledged it. Everything was fine for the past few years. Flash forward now to 2010 when we registered in June like the others. We've been on the list, and it's kicked back saying, well, your original registration in 07 was at the wrong office. Well, they had already investigated that. Daisy Moe and Sharon Dickinson of the city clerk. So if there can be any language added to this motion that you're going to be putting next Wednesday that would only involve one collective, that the city staff misdirected their paperwork. They admit that on city staff paperwork even, that they in themselves misdirected it. I would be the only one that would be affected by this to be able to get back on the list. We're continue to operate. They haven't bothered us. They understand that this is a kind of a technical issue, and I'm hoping that I don't have to sue the city. I really don't want to go in that direction, and I think this can all be resolved with next Wednesday's amendment with a simple language in there to help me out. So I'd appreciate if you guys could do that for me.
Thank you very much. I think since we're already in Van Nuys and we got audio, why don't we take Wayne Spinner, also in Van Nuys.
Okay.
Wayne?
Yes, you can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. There was a poll taken about this recent issue about an oil tax. 14% were in favor of it, and I warned that I was afraid that that was going to happen. So 14% in favor, that's not going to be a majority, but we had a vote, and it's going to be on the ballot involving an oil tax per barrel. And this is going to be the highest tax per barrel in the entire county of Los Angeles. So you vote no, and the vote was unanimous except there was one holdout. For the first time ever, Councilwoman Janice Hahn stood up for the trucking industry. In her district, you have CD 15. That's the Port of Los Angeles. And there's a lot of oil imports, a lot of truckers that go down there and have to idle their vehicles to wait long waits to pick up their cargo. Many people are owner-operators of their rigs. And when you start taxing oil, you start taxing them. Another issue that's coming up with truckers is this global solutions. Trucks made before 2004 are going to have to be retrofitted, and that's going to put a lot of these truckers out of business unless that's stopped. So not only should Janice Hahn oppose the barrel tax, she should also oppose implementing these changes on owner-operator trucks. Because if you don't do this, we're going to lose a lot of port business to other cities in other states or even Mexico that do not have the same restrictions. So for once there was a good vote. It was unanimous except for one. So in March, join Councilwoman Janice Hahn and vote no on the oil tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alarcon, would you like to say
Madam Chair, I just wanted to stand up and point out that the rumor has it that the poll that showed 14% in favor of it was prior to your vote against the measure. So I think the measure has a very good chance. Thank you.
If that's any indication with the way my colleagues voted against me, you're right. Duke Russell is the next one up. Go ahead.
Madam President, committee members, good morning. My name is Duke Russell. On Wednesday, the 17th, for the record, I wish to correct a mistake. I said April 14, 2002. I meant to say April 14, 2010. I'm a member of American Legion Post 43 in Hollywood. You all know that President Barack Obama has proclaimed November as Military Family Month. I have given each of you a copy of his 2-page proclamation in case you don't have one. It's a wonderful tribute to those risking their lives or who are now home after risking their lives. But it is much more than a tribute. I wish to quote the President. We are also standing with our service members as they transition back into civilian life, providing counseling as well as job training and placement. And through the post-9/11 GI Bill, our veterans and their families can pursue the dream of higher education, unquote. We all know that overseas many dream of playing the sports they love and help them stay in high school and graduate.
Thank you very much. The next speaker will be Arnold Sachs. We give each speaker 2 minutes, and we try to be fair during public comment, so thank you very much for your remarks. And our next speaker is Arnold Sachs.
We need the field at LA City College for the veterans. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. 13 ballot measures were considered on Tuesday agenda. 9 ballot measures considered by the council as reported on a Wednesday morning Daily Breeze edition. 5 ballot measures on a Wednesday agenda for the second reading. Please clarify for the public how many ballot measures will be included in November in the March 8th elections. That being said, including in the fiasco that was Wednesday's meeting, there was a vote on one measure that was heard twice. Why twice? Because the buttons on your desks weren't working properly. So there was no action taken by the city attorney, or a request by the city attorney, to cancel the first vote. It was just a second vote automatically. Why no action to cancel the first vote? We don't know. City attorney didn't speak up. Then there was a remark by the president of the city council that being out of the chambers was not an excuse for not voting. But I thought being out of the chambers in the back, in the front of the back of the chambers, was part of the chambers. So is that an excuse for voting? Again, no response from the city attorney on that comment. But what the city attorney did comment on was the allocated time that the speakers on this side of the podium are allowed to speak. Now, what part of the council rules and regulations is that inclusive of? So I can check on that, please, that the city attorney can opine on our time allocated. Thankfully, he didn't say anything about the president speaking today, Mr. Labange. He could have cut him off for only 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Our next speaker will be Mr. Noel Weiss.
Mr. Sachs, Buddha Belly. Madam President, Council, speaking the truth, great theme. Mr. Cardenas referred to that this morning, standing up for principle, also a great theme, particularly, I think, in the wake of what I would call an appeasement for a political expediency in connection with the Ratepayer Advocate Charter Initiative. I want to give kudos to Carmen Trutanich, to his staff, to Bill Carter, for drafting a provision where, really, they did act as the attorney for the people in this situation because it drew out Mr. Garcetti, which oftentimes does not happen, relative to the kind of points that Mr. Cardenas made as far as what should go into a charter amendment. This charter amendment was gutted by Mr. Garcetti. Principles of openness, transparency, citizen empowerment, accountability, independence were completely lost. To ask the public to trust this council when it's been bait and switched so often is just asking too much. People should not go for promise for performance. I think going forward, before this Ratepayer Advocate initiative is voted favorably by the people, council has to come through. Council needs to pass the implementation ordinance before the vote so that the people know up front what they're getting. If the people do not pass that implementation, if the council refuses to debate it, to let the public know what's going on and to deliver, then frankly, I think the public should vote down that ordinance or proposed charter amendment. A good idea, poorly executed, is worth 0. Even an average idea, well executed, is worth a lot. Under the circumstances, I think the council failed the people. Again, I would hope that going forward, maybe we can find, we got 7 votes for at least some decent language. It was an 8-7 vote. Mr. Labange, of course, was on the wrong side. Mr. Weezar's on the wrong side. And I hope the voters are on the right side when it comes time, and I hope that vote is not forgotten come election.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Next speaker is Victor Taylor.
Good morning to the council. For the record, my name is Victor Taylor Ill. The time has come that every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. In accordance with the divine plan of the ages, it is mandatory for the people standing in their proper person to proclaim their free national status, dissolving all unauthorized political bonds and assumable jurisdictions. According to all true and divine records of the human family, race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all of the inhabitants of Africa were, and although the human family, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. There is no one who is able to change man from his decent nature and of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator himself. The United States, with the great congressional 13th Amendment of 1865, abolished the institution of slavery, which in fact repealed and did rescind wholly all slave masters and slave names of said institution, albeit contrived and did willfully assume jurisdiction over the comatose ex-slaves that extended power through the clause of all persons born reformed solely to the re-established institution of Negroes, blacks, colored, and other chattel commercial property as used in the 14th Amendment. I stand here before you to proclaim my nationality as Moorish American, as a representative of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Moorish American Society. Thank you. I would like to present this proclamation to whoever may take it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Clyde Williams. Dr. Clyde Williams. He left. Okay. Next speaker will be Walter Bechtel.
Good morning. I want to talk about honesty. You know, it's been said, it's an old saying, I hope you understand it's true. Honesty is the best policy. We have a problem with the city here, especially in the entertainment industry, especially people at Warner Brothers have already admitted that they push the envelope a little too much when it comes to copyright law. I think that the city council needs to understand, if you will enjoin to that dishonesty that they're perpetrating there. If you give them a waiver of prosecution or tell them they can get away with doing some things and that you will look the other way about it. So if they are collecting brain droppings, as a former comedian George Carlin referred to that as, and you say, well, that's okay, we won't do nothing about it, you are a party to what they are doing, and when you cover up these sort of things, these people start hiring in their entourage, and you have them in your entourage, these other people that seem to hang around a lot, that do things that you know that they shouldn't do. And you feel very uncomfortable about firing them because you know that came along with this Warner Brothers group. And I'm not just talking about the admitted entourages of these music people that go around the world and they are on some kind of a furlough thing from the federal lockup they're supposed to be in. I'm talking about other people that ain't yet been arrested. Please understand that affects the economy as well, and it obviously has seriously affected our economy that we're in now.
Thank you. That ends public comment this morning. Shall we go to our regular agenda at this time?
Madam President, item 1 on the agenda is the appointment of Mr. Sam Ebry to the Board of Civil Service Commissioners.
Okay, let's have this appointment. Is he here?
Hey, Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Could I just make a quick comment before we get into
Yes, you may. Ms. Perry.
Given what we're putting on the agenda on a going forward basis, and given that we have a motion coming forward to take a look at all commissions, and then to be more diligent in the way that we review commissioners. One of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure all documentation is in. And Mr. Ebry's case, all of his documentation is complete. And then if you look at his the report, his Ethics Commission review is complete, his background check review is complete, and it passed through committee. Now, that hasn't been the case with all of the commission appointments, and I think we need to pay more attention. But in this case, it is complete, and I wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Any members of the council would like to speak on Sam's appointment?
Here.
Sam, would you like to address the council? Okay, Mr. LaBonge.
I want to say thank you for your service to the city. I think civil service is extremely important to look at it, to look at other best practices across the country and around the world. It's an important part of municipal government, also to modernize whatever modernize would mean as it relates to that. Thank you for your service to Los Angeles, and I appreciate you accepting this role.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes, thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on this commission.
Sure. Honorable members of the City Council, good morning. My interest and passion for serving the city derives from my personal and professional background. Personally, like many Angelenos, I'm an immigrant. My family and I came to the United States when I was a year old, and over the last several years, my passion has been engaging members of the Iranian American community more meaningfully in public service, and in that role, I've gotten to know city life and the civic life in Los Angeles, and I've developed this deep interest in serving and playing a role in public service. Professionally, I'm an attorney, and over the last several years, I have built an employment practice both on the employer and employee side, on plaintiff and defense, in areas of wrongful termination, discrimination, harassment, and wage and hour disputes. So as a result, I have built an expertise in areas of employment and labor law that I believe will be helpful in my role as a commissioner on the Board of Civil Service Commissioners.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is my third appearance with you. The first one, the second one. The second one was a little unusual. People came and testified about your position on the commission. And the commission is obviously very important. The committee that reviewed you, we voted unanimously to support this. The concern is some people don't think it's going to be fair. Don't think it's going to be impartial. And from your experience and from your background, you are fair. You are dealing with it in a mature manner. And we talked about people's livelihood. So I just want to caution you, there's some critics out there for whatever reason, and they don't know you, except they're concerned that maybe the commission's not always going the way that they want it to go. But we have to look at objectivity. We need to make sure it's done right. We make sure that livelihood is considered. But if someone does something wrong on the disciplinary process, there's consequences, and it's about personal responsibility. Can you respond to that issue?
My understanding of my position is to evaluate each case on its own merits and apply the law to the facts. And my background has given me the opportunity to both represent employees and employers in the employment context. And I have a deep commitment to being impartial, to being fair, and when necessary, making the decision that is in the best interest of all the parties. As I mentioned in the Personnel Committee hearing, my formative experience as an attorney was working as a law clerk for a federal district court judge, a very well-respected one, and I watched him on a daily basis make very difficult decisions that would impact the livelihood of litigants in front of him, both in civil and criminal matters. I understand that these decisions that are made by judges and commissioners have real-world impact on the livelihood and the lives of the folks and employees in front of us. And I have a deep commitment to being fair and impartial and hearing both sides and bringing no agenda to the table.
Great. I appreciate that, because as the chair of the Personnel Committee, it's important that we make sure we deliver service to the people who are paying the taxes. We'll do that in a professional manner. And if people do something that's wrong, and we've seen some headlines where some people, city employees, have done things that are wrong, and the public gets outraged by that. So the personal responsibility, they know the rules, the regulations, and there's consequences, obviously, when they do something wrong and they're caught doing that. I just want to caution on that, because it seemed that was the tone of the individuals that came to testify regarding your appointment. But I think you've got great qualifications. You obviously, your parents raised you in a manner to give you that responsible attitude. You went to law school, you're working, you're employed, you're mature. You've got all those, the right focus. You're on the right track. Don't let that dissuade you from your principles and your values. And it's unusual in the personnel committee that I've chaired for many years. We really haven't had the folks come out and talk about an individual coming on, not knowing your experience, not knowing your background, but just saying, well, maybe we just don't like the way the commission's going. Commission is extremely important. That's the workforce for the people of Los Angeles, and the people are paying dear taxes for that. So I wish you well. I think you'll do extremely well in that position, and the future will be bright for you, because you're a sharp individual on track, and I commend the mayor for bringing you forward for this very important position on the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you, Councilmember Zarn.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's called the fade out, Mr. Zahn. When you're going too long, they just slowly fade you out. Thank you. Sam, I want to congratulate you on this nomination and thank the mayor for an excellent choice, and echo much of what Mr. Zahn has said as well. You certainly have distinguished yourself here. Your education, going to Yale, and then, as Mr. Smith would probably say, you then improved upon that and went to SC for law school. But the work that you've done for 2 national law firms, but then also here going out on your own in a more entrepreneurial way to found your own firm. I also know that your clerkships with, one of them was with Judge Matz, who's a dear friend and one of the finest jurists I know, just an incredible person. And in this situation, you will be in a semi-judicial setting. You will be asked to make those same judgments, so I think you come with the right background and the right set of experiences. But we also have all reflected around here, many times the commissioner nomination and confirmation process is a bit of a rubber stamping, and we wonder, how did we not see that this person wouldn't be as good? And that's why I think it's important for those who know folks personally to stand up and to speak and to say that I have the fullest faith in you to make those right decisions at the right time. I've seen that of what you've done, not only with your main job, but with 30 years after, and your organizational skills. But also know that as a commissioner, you'll be called sometimes to make the decision exactly the opposite way you thought walking in that room. And with civil service, it's one of the best protections of a fair and a good government. But at that individual level, it has to make sure that judiciousness comes out as well. So I just want to speak up in strong support of you, Sam. I know you won't disappoint us, and congratulations on this big step. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Parks.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I'd just like to bring up a point. This has nothing to do with your appointment. We saw you in committee and certainly moved you forward. But one of the things that carry over on what Ms. Perry was talking about earlier, in 2006, the council took the time and effort to create a policy and a standard for commissioners to come before us. And in that policy, it talked directly to the city clerk to prepare a packet of information. It also discussed the issue of a council policy in the new charter reform in the State Political Reform Act. It also included the Ethics Department or Commission to provide donation history, and it directed the Personnel Department to perform background checks. And in the document that was produced by the CLA, it was a 12-point plan in which they identified certain issues that they thought were relevant. And for some reason, most of these things have not been forthcoming. So I'm going to ask that we make a motion and ask the Rules Committee to bring back this item under Council File 05-1154, and to bring departments in and ask them what they've done on their compliance, and to determine how we can get this policy implemented that we've been waiting for since 2005.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Let's continue with the speakers on the queue, and then we'll vote on that. Okay, Mr. Koretz.
Well, as a UCLA grad, I won't hold your USC background against you.
Okay, now you're
Although, good blue color there, we won't complain. That's literally the only negative thing I could say. I thought after some of the problems we had with the DWP Commission and some of our discussions, that we need to pay more attention to our appointments. And it's very clear we need to make sure we have people with greater qualifications, a knowledge base that will allow them to be fair. I know there were folks that came and testified in the Personnel Committee. I am assuming that they would have testified regardless of who the nominee was, out of concern that some of the previous members of the board might not be as fair and objective to employees as they could have been. I've had experience with Sam at a variety of levels, and he's a CD5 resident, which I'm proud of. I would be perfectly happy to have someone that had a bias towards labor, as some of you know. I think Sam is actually the perfect commissioner because he has experience on both sides. I believe he is eminently fair and will be fair and unbiased. And as much as I would like someone with a little more labor bias, I think that really doesn't belong there. What really belongs on this commission is someone that knows the issues and knows the law and could be fair and objective, and I think you will absolutely be that. So I think you are the perfect person for this position, and I'm glad to see that you're willing to serve in this position and look forward to working with you there.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Perry, would you like to speak again?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note again for the record that your background is uniquely suited because you are already a lawyer, and I think you understand the nature of conflict, that not only will you be able to note for yourself, but I think you'll be able to give good guidance and leadership on the commission to others and to work closely with the city attorney on that issue. So I just wanted to say that for the record because I think it's very important to note that.
Thank you very much. Any other members would like to speak on this commission appointment? And we're getting a word from our city attorney whether or not the motion made on this item is appropriate. Would you like to speak on the microphone, Mr. City Attorney? State your name for the record.
Dean O'Connell, Deputy City Attorney. My understanding from Mr. Parks is it's a request for scheduling of that prior motion that he referred to, and so it's really not as an amending motion to this confirmation matter.
That's right.
Okay, thank you very much. So we now have the commission appointment before us. Sam Ebry. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations, and we appreciate your service.
Thank you, honorable members.
Okay, let's go to item 2.
Madam President, item 2 is being held on the desk for the committee report that has now been circulated.
Okay, the committee report has been circulated. Is there any questions or comments from members? If not, we'll open the roll on item 2, close the roll, and we'll tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Yes, Ms. Perry. Yes.
We have another commission appointment on the special agenda, and I was going to suggest that maybe we do that if we can adjourn and then or recess, whatever the process is, and go into the special agenda, because I have a concern that on this 19, all of the documentation is not complete and is not in as part of the official record. and that we may need to continue that one, or it would be my suggestion that we do if I am correct and that the documentation is not complete. I need somebody to verify whether the background check ethics commission...
Well, I think what we first have to do is have that item before us.
Okay.
So would you like us to do we have to wait till, what, 10:15 for the special agenda?
Council may take up this time. They can actually recess the regular meeting and go into the special meeting.
Why don't we do that so we can have a continuity of commission appointments?
The roll call for the special meeting. Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 14 members present, and a quorum, Madam President. It is a one-item agenda. It's an item for which public hearing has been held, and this is the appointment of Mr. Michael Prehar to the Employee Relations Board.
Thank you. Okay, we have before us item 14 on the special agenda. Can you find the special agenda?
19. It would be item 19.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perry, would you like to speak on this?
Yes, I'm reviewing the agenda, and
19 or 14?
just on item 19 for Mr. Prehar for the Employee Relations Board. The Ethics Commission review is still pending. The background check review is still pending. And I highlighted that in the previous appointment because it was complete. And this is not your fault and has nothing to do with you. But I would prefer to act in a consistent manner and to have all the documentation in before we take a vote. And maybe we could continue this and give some time.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. I think, again, I think it makes sense that we have everything before us before we approve the commission appointment. Would you like to continue this item? I believe our last date to act is December 17th, so we certainly can continue this item. Mr. Labange, would you like to say something on this?
Here's a good citizen of Los Angeles who came down here on an invitation of a function of government, and if this is not critical, I don't think we should penalize the person who came down who's going to serve us if this can be corrected. And I would just like to ask the CLA to give me explanation on this.
And this is not about him being a nice man or a good citizen. He looks like a nice enough guy. I don't even know him, but he seems nice.
Right.
He seems like a really nice guy.
What's
but I don't want to vote on somebody who just seems like a nice guy. I just like to have the documentation. And
what documentation's missing?
We're missing the Ethics Commission reviewing the background check. We're missing that.
That's clear and that's clean and that is very important. So I support Ms. Perry. You got to have that straightened out.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just say that. We need it in front of us so that if anybody has questions, we just put a bunch of initiatives on the ballot and introduced a motion about reviewing all the commissions. So, we might as well start now. But again, you seem like a very nice man.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Mr. Cardenas, do you want to speak on this item?
Yeah, I think the appropriate thing to point out, and I agree with Ms. Perry, it's without prejudice, sir. It's nothing personal to you as an individual. We do appreciate you coming forth and your willingness to spend of your personal time to give to the city so much. But at the same time, I want to apologize on behalf of the city to you because you did come here, as Councilmember Labange just pointed out. Your time is valuable. We really do look forward to good people like you serving. But at the same time, we messed up. We didn't handle our business as a city the way we're supposed to. So fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately we do have enough time for us to do this correctly, but unfortunately you've come here and what should have been a straightforward confirmation, which I believe you're very confirmable from what I can tell, but unfortunately we don't have the legal documentation necessary for us to take action. At the same time, since you did come today, Madam President and colleagues, I think it would be appropriate if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself as you planned to do either way, and that way, just to let you know, you're welcome to come again. I'm sure you would like to, but if, for example, we were to schedule this on another date and time where you're not available, you will have afforded yourself the opportunity to tell us a few things that you would have should you not be able to make it. So with that, I think that's a fair and reasonable thing for us to ask. We don't usually ask potential commission appointees to come various times to council. Unfortunately, it appears that we'll probably be deliberating this again soon, hopefully with your presence, but if not, if you could please afford us a bit of comment from you about yourself. Thank you.
Ms. Perry, is that appropriate for him?
Before he starts his comment, give it a week, or I think we're here next Tuesday, and whoever, I think the city clerk is responsible for gathering the documentation. It shouldn't be that hard to gather, and maybe you can set it for next Tuesday.
Right, and I don't have a problem making that, for you to make that motion for a week. I just want to make sure that in a week we do have all the background material. But, Michael, would you
Or
like?
you can do it after the Thanksgiving break if that makes it easier. Anyway, I'll make that motion to reschedule. Can I get a second on that? Second from Mr. Wesson, then.
For 2 weeks to December 3rd? Yeah, we'll do it 2 weeks.
Madam President, December 3rd is actually a recess date, so December 7th would be the best date.
Great.
Right, we don't want him to come down while we're in recess. So December 10th would be the next date.
Actually, December 7th, Tuesday.
Oh, December 7th. Okay. Thank you. Well, Michael, would you like to, why don't you here if you would want to address us, you may.
As a professional background, I've been primarily involved as an arbitrator, and mostly, again, in labor management disputes for past 26 years. I have been a hearing officer, serving by appointment to board in the past. I've been a civil service hearing officer for LA City, for LA County, for LA Unified School District, a number of private sector entities, and that's an appointment made by agreement between both labor and management. It is my understanding that on this occasion also I've had my name came forward as a recommendation by both labor and management representatives who were involved in matters before the city and the board. I've been here as a citizen of Los Angeles for over 30 years now. Entire professional life as a labor arbitrator has been here in the Los Angeles area.
Thank you very much, and I hope you understand that we just want to do our due diligence, and so we will continue this item without objection until December 7th. Thank you very much, and we hope you come back on that date. Thank you. Okay.
Madam President, do you wish to adjourn the special and go back to the regular?
Yes.
And I would take council back now to item 4, called special by Councilmember Rosendahl.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. It's good to see you up there.
Thank you. It's good to see you down there.
Real quickly, just to do a shout-out, is that the winter shelter program will begin December the 1st. And in my area, we have 2 locations. One is the federal building there in West LA, Armory, which is on Federals Avenue, and then the other one is in Culver City on Culver Boulevard near Overland. So 220 folks, at least in my side of town, will get an opportunity to get out of the cold, and obviously we have rain coming this weekend, but starting December 1st. It used to be December 15th, so it's extended now to December 1st through March 15th. I'm having difficulty finding Santa Monica or others willing to participate in location points to pick up the homeless, but I'm certainly moving forward with it in my district in both locations. And of course, I just got to tell you, Jan Perry has provided incredible leadership on this whole issue, and if you were to tour downtown, you would see her shelters that are really incredibly good, and we can learn a lot from Ms. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. This is extremely important that we do this. Shall we open the roll? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Item 7, called special by Councilmember Alarcon.
Mr. Alarcon.
Council members, I called this special just to bring your attention to the actions that we were recommending relative to voluntary disclosure program. Both if we could, I would ask that we take items 7 and 8 at the same time. They both involve the Department of Finance, and I'd like to ask the department to step forward to explain both 7 and 8.
All right, let's take 7 and 8 together.
It has been our priority in the Jobs and Business Development Committee to look at reforming the city's business tax structure, particularly for those businesses that are no longer competitive because we are losing business to other jurisdictions. And so items 7 and 8 are both focused on this goal to preserve our competitive nature in our business community. First of all, the voluntary disclosure program allows unregistered businesses to come forward voluntarily, register with the city, and pay back taxes with a reduced look-back period of 5 years from the usual 8 years. So this would hopefully incent businesses who are out of compliance to come forward and get registered with us, and would provide the dual benefit of generating revenue without penalizing them for 8 years going backwards, as opposed to now we are recommending 5 years. There's also an offer and compromise program. It allows taxpayers who have outstanding tax liability to receive a decrease in that liability if they can prove a financial hardship. Both of these programs provide a win-win for the city and the business community. Combined, the programs are expected to generate revenue of $750,000 annually. It's supported by the business community because it allows businesses to come forward and pay their own taxes. It also has it levels the playing field for businesses if everybody is paying the same taxes. So I would only ask the Department of Finance if you could just explain how both these programs work very quickly, and hopefully we can get passage on these two items to stimulate more business in Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you, Council Member. My name is Antoinette Cristoval. I'm the General Manager of the Office of Finance. The Voluntary Disclosure Program, as you indicated, sir, provides an opportunity for businesses who are not registered with the City of Los Angeles but are operating in the city and owe taxes to voluntarily come forward and provide the Office of Finance with certain information and documentation that will be utilized in determining the taxes that are due by the taxpayer. And as indicated, instead of having to pay taxes going back to 8 years, they would be limited to 5 years of taxes, principal and interest that would be due. The penalty would be waived. But for the first year of the program, what we are proposing, because we wanted to satisfy some of the concerns of the business community, in particular the Business Tax Advisory Committee, is to allow a look back or collection of taxes only for 3 years for the first year of the voluntary disclosure program. We understand that there are businesses out there that are wanting to come forward, and we are certainly looking forward to having them on the city's tax rolls. And as indicated, that program, we did include a revenue estimate of $250,000. What we will need is to have the city attorney's office to prepare the ordinance, and upon preparation of that, we would have the information available on our website and would make it available to the business community. The Offer and Compromise program really addresses an opportunity for businesses who are experiencing a financial hardship to be able to come forward, make an offer to the Office of Finance to settle their tax debt. The business would be required to pay $150, basically a deposit on their tax liability that's due, and whether the offer is accepted or not, that $150 would be applied to their tax liability. In this particular case, it applies only to business taxes. It does not apply to other taxes that the city collects, such as the transient, the hotel, parking, and utility users taxes. And that is primarily because those taxes, basically, the provider, the hotel operator and the like, collects the tax on behalf of the city from their customers and remits it directly to the city. The Offer and Compromise program, we are prepared to move forward with that program today, provided that it is approved by council. It was adopted in the budget, but we certainly want to get an affirmation today from the council. And the Business Tax Advisory Committee is in support of this, and they also recommended both the voluntary disclosure program as well as the offer and compromise program as two of their tax reform measures that they're looking for the city to move forward. So we hope that this will be approved, and we're ready to move forward.
Thank you. We do have a member of the public that would like to speak on this item. Lloyd Griff.
Thank you, Councilmember Hahn. I'm Lloyd Greif. I'm chairman of the Business Tax Advisory Committee, and as Antoinette Cristoballi just indicated, we are totally in support of both of these programs, both the voluntary disclosure program and the offer and compromise program. We believe they will generate additional revenues for the city. The VDP, we believe, will increase compliance with the company's business tax code, with the city's business tax code. We think that's important. We think that by encouraging businesses that have not been identified by the city to come forward voluntarily, identify themselves, and start paying taxes with a 3-year catch-up during the first 12 months and a 5-year catch-up thereafter is in the best interest of the city and is in the best interest of all businesses. We want an equal playing field for all businesses. We want all businesses to be subject to the tax code, and if those that have somehow missed being discovered or for whatever reason are now concerned because of the penalties and interest that would accrue and the unlimited tax liability that could accrue depending on how far back the city chooses to pursue them, we think this will alleviate that concern and will encourage them to come forward. Offer and compromise, we think is particularly appropriate because of the state of the economy and the great recession that businesses are still coping with. We think that making it easier for businesses to pay the taxes that they can afford to pay at this point in time based on the documentation that they provide to the city will also increase the flow of revenues into the city and be a win-win for both the businesses and the city itself. So Business Tax Advisory Committee totally supports the proposals set forth by the Office of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to add to this, Mr. Alarcon?
No, just ask for support. Thank you.
Okay, let's open the roll on both these items, 7 and 8. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item 12, called special by Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange.
You do have cards on that as well, Madam
For the
President.
public, I'd like to hear from the public.
Okay, let's hear from the Republic. Item 12. So you're supposed to...
Members, what this is a portion of Old Dirt Mulholland underneath the Hollywood sign, and it's a request that costs to those, not the city, but there would be a walk-through gate put up to prevent people from driving into the hillside area. Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from members of the public on this. First speaker will be William Tabor, and then Fran Reichenbach, and then we have Wayne Spinner and Frank Chattel and Van Nuys. Okay, William Tabor.
Thank you, Council, for letting us speak today. I'm here representing residents south of the proposed gate. Sir? Bring it down? Okay, thank you. I have some bullet points because I realize everybody's time is pretty valuable, but I'd like to propose, first of all, that there be a consideration for the location of the gate, which, at least from the preliminary statements, we do not believe needs to be exactly at the Mulholland Ledgewood intersection. As a long-term resident just south of the gate, our home would probably be most affected, but we also believe there are other safety concerns that need to be raised. First of all, a gate's not necessary. Before there was even a proposed gate, up the road there on Mulholland Highway, there was a chain that was there for over 10 years, and until that chain was removed, there were no incidents of safety, whether it be a fire, which in this case it was a car that caught fire, and there was also, of course, later a fire hydrant that was ran into. We believe that the risk of fire is the same level as it would be at Canyon Lake Overlook. So if we were going to fence off the Mulholland Ledgewood intersection, we would probably ask why you wouldn't do the same there. Primarily important to us is the loss of parking, which is already limited in that area already. I mean, if you move up next to the Hollywood sign, you must understand that tourists want to come see the Hollywood sign. I do not know how residents who live near the Hollywood sign, I know I've never had any problem with it, would feel like that is a burden to them. You've moved next to the Hollywood sign, okay? Already there's no parking signs going up on this place where the gate is being proposed. That particular street, if you look at the city map, shows to be approximately 30 feet wide. So there is certainly adequate space for at least some parking for the tourists who do want to come see the sign. If the gate is put to where it is proposed, it will create, am I out of time? Can I just say a couple other things real quick? Okay. It will create a bottleneck, which would create a safety concern at the turnaround, literally right in front of our house, but forget our home for a second. It's really a safety concern. And if you've ever been in this intersection, you would understand what I'm talking about. And not only that, the sign is for all LA City residents and should be considered so. Right.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker is Fran Reichenbach.
Hi there, I'm Fran Reichenbach. I'm the president of Beechwood Canyon Neighborhood Association, and we have a long history of all kinds of shenanigans going on up on this little road. And it goes right up into Griffith Park, right below the Hollywood sign. So when we have partying going on before and after, during whatever chain, no chain, there's some determined kids that want to party up there. A lot of stuff has been hauled out of there as evidence, and there has been one car fire, one car torched back there. And if anything goes up in that very delicate eco-structure back there, we're going to have a fire that we're never going to forget. And I think that 18 months as a test, closing this street off, is probably really prudent. I'd like the time clock on that 18 months to start right after the gate is actually closed. Right now there's some considerations about the aesthetic design of the gate, some discussions. We're really being very thoughtful about the way we go forward. So I appreciate your consideration for this. Thanks.
Thank you. And in Van Nuys, we have Wayne Spinner and Frank Sheftel.
Yes, here we got a nice, under the name of public safety, this is just a nice attempt by Labange in an election year to close off a private street and basically hand it over to private use. That's what all of this is about. We understand, of course, that the little people of Los Angeles should not have access to the sign up there in the Hollywood, because the little people need to stay down on the hills. It's only the wealthy and the beautiful people that go up into the hills, and they don't want any members of the public up there even accessing the sign. There was a number of acres of land that were purchased near that sign, the Hollywood sign, and they were developing that, but access to the Hollywood sign is very important for tourists and the city as a whole. And in this plan that they have, what is this gate going to look like? No, they don't know that. How long is this gate going to be up there? They say temporary. Temporary is like 2 days. We're talking about a year, year and a half, and that means forever. That gate will be there forever. You know that. But again, this is all about the fortress mentality that's going on in the city of Los Angeles. It's to separate you, the beautiful people, from the rest of the people down in the hills that have to go to the shelters over there in Venice because Santa Monica kicks out their homeless. And down on the hill, you don't want these people, the serfs, to go up the hill to the mighty mansions. So that's all this is about. So if you're going to use a public street for private use, that's eminent domain, that's inverse condemnation. Make these homeowners pay for that street. Then they can have the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Sheftel in Van Nuys.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hahn. It really is about access, and it is about quality of life, especially where you live in your community. And as the previous speaker said about living by the Hollywood sign, you knew when you moved in that the Hollywood sign was there, and it attracts a lot of people. It truly does. There was a piece of chain across the gate there that was there for a while, and it was removed, and it seems like that's when some of the problems started creating it. There are cameras up there. I mean, we are very concerned about this. We have a lot of money, and, that Hollywood sign represents, our city. It represents what, we are all about. It was, Hollywood land. It was for development many years back. I'll pull a Labange and give a little bit of history on that. But, that sign's been there, and, it's Hollywood. It's been used a lot of times for promotion, and it's an iconic figure. And we want people to have access, but we want to make sure that the community is also kept from vandalism, kept from fires, from people dropping stuff off, the litter and everything else, and just access itself. So I think we have to walk a real fine line between that, and we have to listen to the people that are living there, the people that are there that deal with this every day. It has on here that the gates will be installed at no cost to the city. Well, again, you want to make sure, like the previous speaker also said, about how it looks, the value of the way it looks, and everybody agrees on it. And it's only for 18 months, and what happens at the end of that 18 months? There's a great expense to installing it. What about taking it out? And is it going to be a fixture that's going to stay there? I think these are all things that need to be considered. It says that there hasn't been any environmental or community impact statement. None was submitted, and I think the people that are here speaking that live in the area, they should be listened to, and they should be considered when we consider taking a public area and taking it and cutting off the access to the people that should have it. So I hope we consider that before we vote on this.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Labange.
Yeah, thank you very much. I apologize, members, for taking your time with the comment. These are the people who came down, who live there. We're going to work with the community to site where the gate should be, and it's going to be a walkthrough. And the reason why the chain link fence isn't there anymore, because cyclists like to ride on Mulholland and get to the other side of Mulholland where there's open access that gets you to Mount Lee. I would like to ask our city attorney to find a way on this public comment. People who live right there, who know the voice, be given the time to speak. Not necessarily those who are speaking and not reading the report. But that's something for you to do, Mr. City Attorney, because this council's time is valuable, and now it's time to move forward. I ask for an aye vote, and we will work with everybody. There'll always be a walkthrough gate, and I'm proud of the work that this city council has done to provide more accessibility, not just in Griffith Park and the Hollywood Hills, but whether it's Ascot or in Baldwin Hills or Kenneth Hahn State Park. Open space is real important. What we're trying to do is get away from a situation where people could drive down a road, smoke, drink, do things that they shouldn't do, and cause a problem. This protects the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. So we have item 12 before us. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item 16, called special for cards.
Okay, we have cards on item 16 in Van Nuys, Frank Sheftel. And then back here, Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. I just want to comment real quick on that. I have a say in what goes on as well. Whether you live in the area or not, if you're affected by that area, you have a right to get up and say, this is a public area. The Hollywood sign is available to everybody. So for Mr.
Madam President, he is not talking about this item.
I will get into this item. This item regards to $616 that wants to be transferred for, I believe it's, if I'm looking in this, for salaries and overtime to provide sweeping services for a neighborhood cleanup event. Most of the neighborhood cleanup events that I've been to, and I've been to quite a few in my area because I'm in North Hollywood, and Lord knows we need cleanup events there. The volunteers come out, and everybody, it's a volunteer, and people bring things, and the neighborhood comes. I don't understand why we're allocating money to a cause that's supposed to be a neighborhood cleanup event. So, it's all these little fees and all these little things that we put out for these events that add up. And before you know it, we're in a situation where we're, hundreds of $millions in deficit because we've nickeled and dimed ourselves into that position. So I'd like to see, the neighborhood step up. I'm a businessman in the community. I've volunteered and I've donated time and money. We can go to the private sector and get $616. It's not that a lot of money to have the neighborhoods do it. Have a sponsor from one of the local businesses that are in the area. But, I just think that the little nickel and diming that we have and to bring it in front of the council, I apologize to you guys for having to bring a $616 item in front of you guys. You guys make a lot of money and shouldn't have to be spending your time on little items like this. So I hope that in the future, I am running for CD4, and Mr. LaBonge, that is this district that this is in, and I am concerned about the monies that go out, and I hope that going forward we're able to have a good discourse and go forward and have a communication and not point fingers and blame people and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold Sachs.
No, see, that's what I like. By the way, I'm totally against this. And as for reasoning, I'd like to point out that back in July of this year, when you were having budget discussions, there was an item on your agenda regarding the Travelers Aid Society that works at the airport. Volunteers, mind you, that are being replaced by city employees because the contract with the airport was $400,000. Volunteers were costing the city $400,000. That's what it said. So we're replacing the Travelers Aid Society, a group of volunteers, with city workers to save money. Now this item on your agenda calls for volunteers. Volunteers have cost the airport $400,000. The city of LA, $400,000 at the airport. How much will the volunteers for this cleanup cost the city over the $600? I couldn't find the reasoning how eliminating volunteers. Well, first of all, I couldn't find the reasoning how volunteers cost the city a $400,000 contract. Then I couldn't find the reasoning and how replacing volunteers with city workers would save the city money.
Madam President, is he talking about item 16?
Mr. City Attorney, keep your pie hole closed. The item mentions volunteers. I'm talking about volunteers and the cost here. Please pay attention. This item said volunteers cost the city $400,000. I'd like to know the true cost of the cleanup involving the volunteers.
Thank you very much. That ends public comment on this item. We have item 16 before us. Oh, Mr. Alarcon, did you press your button?
Yes, I did, Madam Chair.
Well, then, you have the floor.
Council members, this is $616. I want to commend Mr. LaBonge for encouraging volunteers to step forward. The fact of the matter is that volunteers are doing work that would otherwise cost the city thousands and thousands of dollars in order to clean up the community. So I think, the one person said they were running for city council. I just wanted to be noted that obviously that's a candidate that would not encourage volunteers in their community, because this is how we do it. And for $600, I think it's a tremendous value so that we can deal with the other issues of our budget. And I think every one of us uses the street furniture fund to a limited extent to provide encouragement to volunteers to help clean our communities where we cannot complete the job.
Thank you very much. Okay, the item is before us. Item 16. Let's open the roll. Let's close the roll. Let's tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Mr. Clerk?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Let's post and refer those.
The desk is clear.
The desk is clear. Council members, look, it's noon. I'm getting us out of here on time and on budget. Are there any announcements? Mr. Alarcon and then Mr. Labange.
I'd like to say that I thought the chair did an outstanding job of running the meeting today, and thank you very much. And we're getting out just a little past 12. That's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you. Mr. Labange.
I wanted to second the motion, Mr. Alarcon, about the chair. Madam President, you did a great job with great levity, and I like that little levity you threw in the middle of the meeting there when you spoke so well. So thank you so much.
I have a good team to work with here. Any other colleagues would like to say something? Dennis Nine.
Thank you. The annual fundraiser celebrating Topanga LAPD 21st Area Police Station. Tonight, they have a major event, 5:30 to 8:30 at the Hilton Woodland Hills, 6360 Canoga Avenue in Woodland Hills. Mr. Smith will be there, along with me and members of the community, so you're all invited to come out to the annual fundraiser celebrating Topanga Division at 21st Station of the LAPD at the Hilton on Canoga in Woodland Hills. We encourage you to come out and enjoy and show support for our fine LAPD Topanga Division. And there was a Motor for Toys that was scheduled for this Sunday, but due to rain it's been postponed. So if you plan to do Motor for Toys out in Woodland Hills this weekend, it's being postponed due to the rain. That's anticipated tonight and through the weekend. Thank you, Tom Labange.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
I just was going to make a motion that you can't read from your BlackBerry. You got to read from your paper that there.
I'm high-tech, Mr. Labange, high-tech.
High-tech.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl, do you have an announcement?
Thank you, Madam President. Just on Saturday, this Saturday, at 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the Westchester Community Room, there'll be a discussion with LMU's Department of Public Safety to give us a community update. As you know, we've liaisoned with LMU on lots of issues, and this is one that deals with the students who live off campus and other issues in the neighborhoods and incidents and so on. So it would be a good moment for anybody in the community in Westchester who would like to talk about LMU in the context of public safety issues. Please show up this Saturday, November 20th, from 1 to 3 at the Westchester Community Room, which of course is on Manchester Avenue in Westchester. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Adjourning motions? Colleagues, please rise for adjourning motions. I'm going to start over here with Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam President. First one is for Sylvia Burkhoff, Arnie Burkhoff's mom. Sylvia Burkhoff, resident of the 12th District, for more than 50 years, passed away on November 16th at the age of 94. Worked for many years with her late husband, Ben, to build a successful Van Nuys printing business, A&B Printing and Stationery Company. She was active in Jewish charities and was a longtime member of Temple Ramat Zion in San Fernando Valley. Also strongly supported the American Diabetes Association in honor of her granddaughter, Laura, who has type 1 diabetes since she was 4 years of age. Mother of longtime Los Angeles lobbyist Arnie Burkhoff and Herb Burkhoff. Services will be at Eden Memorial Park in Mission Hills at 11 a.m. this Sunday, November 21st. In lieu of flowers, the family asks that donations be made to the American Diabetes Association. Survived by her son, Arnie, and Herb, 4 loving grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren. Again, that's Sylvia Burkhoff, Arnie Burkhoff's mom.
I'd like to second that one.
Second by Ms. Hunt. Also,
Mr. Koretz would like to...
Sad to announce the passing of Matt Adam Rosenberg, passed away November 17th. Matt Rosenberg was born Van Nuys on August 7th, 1968. Raised in San Fernando Valley, lived in Lancaster, the youngest of 5 brothers, Darren, Lee, Eddie, and Irwin. His oldest brother, Irwin Rosenberg, once served as a city commissioner, as a Valley civic leader, and San Fernando police officer, and of course, my good friend, Irwin Rosenberg. Matt was a customer service supervisor for Bank of America. Favorite place to visit was Hawaii. His passions included animals and spending time with his nieces and nephews. Passed away November 17th as a result of complications from AIDS. Only 42 years old. His partner of 8.5 years, Jimmy, stood by him, provided him care as he died with dignity and courage. Survived by his mother, Renee, brothers, Darren, Lee, Eddie, and his oldest brother, Irwin Rosenberg. survived by his life partner of 8.5 years, Jimmy. May he rest in peace. His services also are Sunday. And I have one final adjourning motion. A mother and daughter who passed away November 6th, Anna Kovel in Kimoko, Fujiko, born October 12, 1921 in Japan. Daughter was born February 24, 1947 in Japan. Anna and Kimiko immigrated from Japan to the United States in 1959. They settled and lived in LA area from 59 to 76. In 76, they moved to Woodland Hills, where they were residing upon their death. Actively involved in the community and the church, faithfully attending Faith Baptist Church for many years. Also a member of Adat Yeshua Masonic Jewish congregation. Spent her life devoting to her faith. Celebrated leader, choir member, Sunday school teacher. Anna's father and husband, Frank Fujiko, passed away October 2009. They had 3 children, Anna, Mary, and John. They passed away on Saturday, November 6th, in a car accident in the intersection of Crenshaw and Coliseum. Anna was 63. Her mother was 89 years old. Many surviving family members, may they rest in peace. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl, did you have any motion? No. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Bill Sott, who passed away peacefully on November 16th, surrounded by his family. He's survived by his wife of 39 years, Joan, children Paul, James, David and Amy, and grandchildren Sabrina, Zachary, Valerie, Emily, and Natalie. He spent 17 years as an executive vice president in the healthcare industry, developing hospitals and medical buildings, and after retiring, he was quick to fill his time by helping people and giving of himself in various ways. He became a big brother, shaping the life of a young boy who had no father, and up until major surgery last month, he taught conversational English to Russian immigrants at Plummer Park and volunteered his time in various ways to better the environment. He was an early practitioner of going green and drove one of the first Prius cars before it became a national trend. His wife, Joan, is also one of LA's notable environmental leaders. He was well known for a zest for life and a wry wit, and he'll be missed by many and well remembered by all those who have had the privilege to know him. And funeral services will be private, and a celebration of his life will be scheduled soon, and in lieu of flowers, donations could be made in his honor to the Midnight Mission.
Are there any other adjourning motions? Mr. Labange.
Members, we all know folks like this. This was a couple that was married for 64 years. Sadly, the passing of the husband, Las Vegas resident Gert Jensen, who immigrated here from Denmark in the late 1940s. He and his wife also were great community leaders in the Las Vegas district, and they were always together. Very, very special. He lived to be 86 years old, and was a very successful businessman throughout his career. Much love to Gert Jensen, survived by his wife Osa and their son Peter, as well as 3 grandchildren.
Seeing no other adjourning motions, we can adjourn this meeting, and we're going to meet again next Tuesday, November 23rd, 10 a.m. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.